In the 41st millennium, there are no more kings, only lords of war who rule through fear, tech priests who worship the machine, and an emperor whose divine corpse holds together the tattered remains of humanity. But what happens when a king who earned his crown through wisdom, not conquest, falls from the stars into this nightmare? What happens when Wakanda's protector discovers a galaxy where compassion is heresy and progress is forbidden? T'Challa, the Black Panther, king of Wakanda, had seen many wonders in his life. He had walked the ancestral plane, fought alongside gods, and defended his nation against threats from beyond the stars. But nothing had prepared him for this. The dimensional rift closed behind him with a sound like reality screaming. One moment, he'd been in Shuri's laboratory, observing her latest experiment in quantum mapping. The next, the equipment overloaded, tearing a hole through space itself. The ancestral plane had flashed before his eyes, the voices of his fathers crying out in warning, and then, silence. T'Challa hit the ground hard, his vibranium suit absorbing the impact and redistributing the kinetic energy in a purple-blue flash. He rolled to his feet, claws extended, scanning his surroundings with enhanced senses that immediately registered wrongness on every level. The sky was a sickly yellow-green, choked with industrial smog that burned his throat even through his suit's filtration systems. The suns, he realized with a start, hung bloated and red on the horizon, casting everything in the color of dried blood. The air tasted of metal, chemicals, and something else, something that made his teeth ache and his skin crawl with instinctive revulsion. He stood in a massive field of some grain-like crop that stretched to the horizon, but the plants were wrong. Too uniform, too lifeless, growing in perfect geometric rows that spoke of industrial efficiency rather than natural agriculture. In the distance, he could see structures, not buildings, but monuments to brutality. Massive Gothic spires crowned with skulls the size of houses, smokestacks belching black clouds into an already poisoned sky. "T'Challa," he said, activating his suit's communication array. "T'Challa, can you hear me?" Static. Not the clean static of a broken signal, but something that rived and whispered at the edge of perception. T'Challa's hand went instinctively to his chest, seeking the comfort of the ancestral plane, the connection to his fathers that had always guided him. Nothing. The spiritual link was gone, drowned in a psychic pressure that pressed against his mind like deep water. For the first time since taking the heart-shaped herb, T'Challa felt truly alone. Movement. His enhanced hearing caught it first, the rhythmic tramp of boots, hundreds of them, moving in perfect unison. Then voices, harsh and mechanical, barking orders in a language that his suit's translator struggled to parse. Low Gothic, the system finally identified, but corrupted by millennia of linguistic drift. They came over the rise like a tide of khaki and steel. Soldiers, but not like any T'Challa had ever seen. They wore crude flak armor covered in purity seals and religious iconography, carrying weapons that looked like a fusion of rifle and industrial tool. Their faces were hard, scarred, and filled with the kind of exhaustion that came from fighting forever without hope of victory. At their head marched an officer in a peaked cap adorned with a golden aquila, a two-headed eagle that seemed to be the symbol of whatever empire claimed this world. He raised a gloved hand, and the regiment came to a halt with mechanical precision. "Halt!" the officer bellowed in that strange, guttural Gothic. "Identify yourself in the name of the God Emperor of mankind." The translator finally caught up, feeding him the meaning. He straightened, allowing his claws to retract, a gesture of peace, though he remained ready to extend them in an instant. Years of diplomatic training took over. "I am T'Challa, King of Wakanda, protector of—" "King?" The word exploded from the officer's mouth like a curse. Instantly, every laser gun in the regiment snapped up, targeting T'Challa with the kind of precision that spoke of endless drill and discipline. "There are no kings but the God Emperor. You will kneel before his servants and submit to questioning, Xenos scum." Xenos. The translator provided context. Alien, inhuman, other. They thought he was an alien. T'Challa's mind raced. His suit registered the weapons targeting him. Crude by Wakandan standards, but numerous. The energy readings suggested they fired concentrated light as projectiles. Individually weak, but 300 of them firing simultaneously could potentially overwhelm even vibranium's absorption capacity.
"I am human," T'Challa said carefully, keeping his hands visible and non-threatening. "I come from a place called Wakanda. There has been an accident with our technology. I mean no harm to you or your emperor." The officer's face twisted with suspicion and religious fervor. "No human wears such heretical armor. No true servant of the Emperor would claim kingship over his divine right. You are either Xenos or heretic, and either way you will submit or die." This was going wrong fast. T'Challa could see it in their eyes. Not just fear, but fanatical certainty. These were not soldiers who could be reasoned with. They were zealots, and he was their devil. "I will not kneel," T'Challa said quietly, "but I will speak with your leaders. Take me to whoever commands this world. I seek only understanding and—" "Fire!" The world erupted in crimson light. 300 lasguns discharged simultaneously, and T'Challa's suit blazed purple-blue as it absorbed the kinetic energy of concentrated light impacting at hypersonic speeds. The pain was immediate, not from the impacts themselves, but from the sheer overwhelming force his suit was being asked to process. He moved. Enhanced speed carried him through the lasfire, weaving between beams with reflexes faster than human eyes could track. His tactical mind, honed by years as Wakanda's protector and dozens of battles alongside the Avengers, calculated angles and trajectories in microseconds. Non-lethal. He needed to disable, not kill. These soldiers were doing their duty as they understood it. T'Challa's claws extended, and he became a shadow among them, striking with precise force. A gun barrel sliced clean through. A soldier's flak armor punctured at non-vital points. Legs swept out from under charging troops. But there were so many. And they didn't retreat. They didn't break. They kept coming with the mechanical determination of men who believed death in service was the highest honor. A massive shape loomed behind him, some kind of armored vehicle, a chimera of tank and troop carrier, its turret swiveling to target him. T'Challa leapt, his suit's kinetic redistribution launching him 15 feet straight up. He landed on the vehicle's hull, claws piercing metal as he tore through the turret mechanism, disabling it without harming the crew inside. "Hold!" The new voice carried absolute authority. The soldiers froze mid-attack, despite their zealous fury. T'Challa turned, still crouched on the disabled vehicle, and saw her. She wore armor of black and red, inscribed with symbols that made his eyes hurt to look at directly. Her face was gaunt, scarred, and carried the kind of authority that came from wielding absolute power over life and death. A servo skull floated beside her, its mechanical eyes recording everything. On her chest, she wore a symbol, a stylized eye with a skull in its center. Inquisition, T'Challa's suit identified, cross-referencing the limited data it had gathered. Holy orders, absolute authority, judge, jury, executioner. So, the Inquisitor said, her voice like silk over razor blades. A Xenos that fights like a man, technology that defies the Omniscia's laws, and the Aragans to claim kingship in the God-Emperor's domain? How fascinating! You will come with me, creature. We have much to discuss. T'Challa met her gaze steadily, reading the intelligence behind the fanaticism. This one was dangerous, not because of her weapons, but because of her mind. As I told your soldiers, he said carefully, I am human, I am a king, and I will speak with you, but not as a prisoner. The Inquisitor's laugh echoed across the field. In the Imperium of man, there are no kings, only the Emperor and his servants. She gestured, and the soldiers began to surround him again, more cautiously this time. You claim humanity, yet you defy his word. You claim peace, yet you disable his warriors. You are a contradiction, and contradictions are heresy. Her hand moved to a weapon at her side, not a gun, but something that hummed with barely contained power. I am Inquisitor Heleth of the Ordo Xenos. You will surrender your heretical technology and submit to interrogation, or I will declare exterminatus on this entire world to prevent your Xenos taint from spreading. 10 billion souls, burned to ash. Her smile widened. Choose quickly, king. His patience is not infinite. T'Challa's enhanced hearing caught the subtle whine of charging weapons all around him. His suit sensors registered energy buildups in orbit, ships waiting for a command to rain fire from the heavens. This Inquisitor would do it. She would kill billions without hesitation if she believed it necessary. He had entered a galaxy gone mad, and for the first time in his life, T'Challa, King of Wakanda, had no idea how to save anyone.
The inquisitorial facility was a monument to paranoia and pain. T'Challa walked through corridors lined with cells where things that might have once been human screamed prayers to an emperor they claimed would save them. Servo skulls tracked his every movement, their dead eyes recording data for analysis. The air reeked of incense meant to purify, but beneath it lay the unmistakable copper tang of blood. He had chosen to come willingly, not surrender. T'Challa would never surrender, but strategic compliance. The Inquisitor had made her threat clear, and he believed her capable of following through. 10 billion lives held hostage by one woman's fanaticism. So he walked, flanked by soldiers whose lasguns never wavered from his center mass, and calculated his next move. They'd tried to take his suit. That had been educational. Remove the armor Inquisitor Heleth had commanded in the transport that brought them to this fortress cathedral. No, T'Challa had replied simply. It was not a request. It was not compliance. She gestured to her soldiers. They tried. Lasfire, neural whips, some kind of gravitational crusher that would have pulped an ordinary man. The vibranium had absorbed it all, storing the kinetic energy until T'Challa's suit glowed like a purple star. He'd released just enough, a controlled pulse that had knocked everyone back without permanent harm to make his point. The Inquisitor had stared at him with something approaching respect, or perhaps hunger. Fascinating, she'd murmured. Technology that defies even the most fundamental laws the Omniscia has gifted us. You will tell me how this is possible. I will tell you many things once you stop treating me like a prisoner." Now, hours later, they sat across from each other in an interrogation chamber that doubled as a chapel. The walls were covered in devotional texts, prayers to the God Emperor inscribed in what T'Challa's translator identified as High Gothic. Between the prayers were darker inscriptions, confessions extracted under duress, heresies catalogued and condemned. Inquisitor Helith studied him with the intensity of a scientist examining a new specimen. Behind her stood two figures that made even T'Challa's enhanced senses recoil. One was barely human anymore, more machine than flesh, a walking arsenal of augmetics and weaponry. A tech priest his suit's database identified, a priest of the machine god. The other was wrapped in psychically charged wards, his eyes glowing with unnatural light, a psyker sanctioned by the Imperium to wield powers T'Challa didn't fully understand. "Let us begin again," Helith said, her voice measured. "You claim to be human, yet you refuse the God Emperor's authority. You claim to be a king, yet you arrive with no kingdom. You wield technology that makes even Magos Vectran here salivate with unholy desire." She leaned forward. "So tell me, T'Challa of Wakanda, what are you really?" T'Challa met her gaze without flinching. Years of dealing with the United Nations, with world leaders and superpowered tyrants, had taught him how to project calm authority, even when surrounded by enemies. "I am exactly what I claim. My nation discovered a rare metal, vibranium, that allowed us to advance far beyond the rest of our world. We used this gift not to conquer, but to protect, to heal, to build something better." "Heresy," the tech priest rasped, his voice a mechanical buzz. "Technology not blessed by the Omnisia, STC patterns violated, machine spirits corrupted by Xeno's logic engines." "I don't know what most of those words mean," T'Challa admitted. "But my technology is not corrupted. It is simply advanced." Advanced. Magos Vectran lurched forward, mechadendrites writhing like angry serpents. "You comprehend nothing. For 10,000 years, mankind has fought to preserve the sacred templates. Every innovation not blessed by the Mars is tech heresy. Every deviation from the machine god's design brings damnation." His voice rose to a screech. "Yet you stand here draped in impossibility and claim advancement?" T'Challa's tactical mind logged the information. Technology was sacred here. Innovation was forbidden. These people had stagnated by religious decree, mistaking ancient patterns for divine law. It explained the crude weapons, the brutal inefficiency, the Gothic nightmare of their architecture. "Show me your wrists," Helith commanded suddenly. T'Challa hesitated, then slowly extended his hands. The vibranium suit retracted partially, revealing dark skin beneath. The chamber went silent. The psyker's eyes widened. Even Helith's composure cracked for a moment. Human, truly human, not abhuman, not mutant, but baseline human genetic structure. Her eyes narrowed. "Yet you come from beyond the Imperium? From beyond the Astronomicon's light? How is this possible?" "I don't know what the Astronomicon is," T'Challa said carefully. "I come from a place called Earth. My people." "Earth!" Helith was on her feet in an instant, her bolt pistol drawn and aimed at his head. "You claim to be from Holy Terra itself? From the God Emperor's throne world?" "I claim to be from Earth. I don't know your Terra. My Earth has 7 continents, 8 billion people, and one nation, Wakanda, that has protected its people for 10,000 years without conquest or subjugation." The Psyker spoke for the first time, his voice layered with harmonics that made T'Challa's head ache. He speaks truth, Inquisitor. I sense no deception, no taint of the ruinous powers. But there is something else, a void where there should be connection, as if his soul exists in a space the warp cannot fully touch.
The ancestral plane, T'Challa said softly, understanding dawning. My connection to my ancestors. I can't feel them anymore. Your warp, it's drowning them out. Heleth holstered her weapon slowly, but her hand remained near it. You possess a soul link, untouched by the warp? Impossible. All psychic phenomena flows through the Imperium, all of it. Then perhaps my people developed something different, T'Challa suggested. Something you don't have a name for. The silence stretched. T'Challa could see the gears turning behind Heleth's eyes. She was intelligent, dangerously so, and she was beginning to realize that he represented something outside her entire framework of understanding. Magos, she said finally, your assessment of his technology? Vectron's mechadendrites twitched with barely suppressed excitement. Magnificent, terrible, heretical beyond measure. The material of his armor absorbs kinetic force and stores it as potential energy, a principle that violates thermodynamic doctrines blessed by the Omnicia. His suit contains computational systems of a complexity I have not witnessed outside of Dark Age relics. And the power source. His vocoder crackled. Inquisitor, I believe his technology predates the Age of Strife. This could be a lost STC variant, or something older, something before mankind's first expansion. T'Challa processed that. These people worshipped technology they no longer understood. They'd lost the knowledge of how to create, how to innovate, and now they clung to ancient patterns like drowning men to driftwood. Wakanda's entire philosophy, progress through wisdom, advancement through understanding, was antithetical to their entire civilization. You want my technology, T'Challa said. It wasn't a question. The Imperium requires it, Heleth corrected. Humanity is beset on all sides. Xenos filth, heretics, the ruinous powers of chaos itself. With technology like yours, we could turn the tide. We could save trillions. At what cost? T'Challa asked quietly. I've seen your interrogation cells. I've watched your soldiers charge into my claws without hesitation because you commanded it. You speak of saving humanity, but what humanity remains when you've stripped away choice, dignity, and the right to question? The price of survival, Heleth said flatly. In this galaxy, compassion is weakness. Mercy is suicide. We do what we must to endure. Then you've already lost, T'Challa said calmly. Because if survival requires you to sacrifice everything that makes you human, what are you surviving for? The bolt pistol was back in his face instantly. Heresy, she hissed. You dare question the God Emperor's design? You dare suggest our sacrifices are meaningless? I suggest, T'Challa said calmly, not flinching from the weapon, that there might be another way. My people faced extinction once. We could have conquered the world with our technology. Instead, we chose to protect, to preserve, to wait until humanity was ready for what we could offer. And how did that work for you? Heleth's smile was cruel. You're here, alone, cut off from your kingdom, in a galaxy that will tear you apart the moment you show weakness. Your mercy will be your death, King. Before T'Challa could respond, alarms shrieked through the facility. Red light bathed the interrogation chamber. The Psyker staggered, clutching his head as if struck. Warp breach, he screamed. Something comes through, something old and hungry. Heleth's vox crackled. Inquisitor, Tau vessels decloaking in orbit. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. They're offering sanctuary to the unidentified Xenos in your custody.
T'Challa's suit had intercepted the same transmission. Its translator parsed it rapidly. To the advanced being in Imperial custody, the Tau Empire offers you freedom, resources, and partnership in the greater good. We have witnessed your capabilities. You do not belong in chains. Respond if you desire extraction. Helith rounded on him. Did you summon them? Is this Xeno's trickery? I've never heard of the Tau, T'Challa said honestly, but his tactical mind was already analyzing the situation. A third faction, offering freedom. Possibly just another form of cage, but at least it was an option. The facility shook. Explosions echoed from above. The Tau were attacking, and T'Challa stood at the center of a diplomatic nightmare that could spark a war. Helith's eyes bored into him. Choose, T'Challa, of Wakanda. Serve the Imperium and gain protection, resources, and purpose, or flee to the Xenos and prove yourself the heretic I suspect you are. Her finger tightened on the trigger. But know this. If you side with them, I will hunt you across the galaxy. And when I find you, I will kill you and everyone who helped you. This I swear. T'Challa looked from the Inquisitor to the alarms flashing overhead. He thought of Wakanda's isolationism, how his nation had hidden from the world for centuries, how that isolation had nearly destroyed them when Killmonger came. He thought of his duty as a king, to protect his people above all else. But his people were galaxies away. Here, now, he had only himself, and the choice before him would define everything that followed. The facility shook again. Time was running out.
T'Challa made his decision in the span of a heartbeat, not to choose, but to create a third option. I will not serve the Imperium, he said, his voice carrying the authority of a king, even as last fire and Tau pulse rounds exchanged overhead. But neither will I flee to the Tau without understanding who they are. I choose knowledge over blind allegiance. Helith's finger tightened on the trigger. Then you choose death. The bolt pistol roared, but T'Challa was already moving. Enhanced reflexes carried him sideways as the mass reactive round screamed past his head and detonated against the chapel wall, blowing a crater in prayers 10,000 years old. His suit blazed purple as he released stored kinetic energy, launching himself past the tech priest's grasping mechadendrites and through the reinforced door in a shower of twisted metal. The corridor beyond was chaos. Imperial soldiers ran toward defensive positions as Tau drones descended through breached ceilings, their weapons humming with blue-white energy. T'Challa's tactical mind processed the new combatants instantly. Sleek technology, precise movements, non-lethal suppression tactics where possible. They were trying to minimize casualties. That alone made them different from the Imperium. Target acquired, a mechanical voice called out. A Tau battlesuit, 8 feet of advanced armor and weapon systems, landed in front of him, but its weapons remained lowered. Unidentified Sophont, we are the Tau Empire's Firecast. We offer extraction and protection. Do you accept? Behind T'Challa, Inquisitor Helith emerged from the destroyed interrogation chamber, bolt pistol blazing. Heretic, you cannot escape the Emperor's judgment. T'Challa made a split-second calculation. The Tau were actively trying not to kill anyone. The Imperium had already threatened to destroy a world to contain him. It wasn't trust, it was pragmatism. Yes, he said. The battlesuit's commander didn't hesitate. A gravity field enveloped T'Challa, and suddenly he was airborne, carried through the breached ceiling and into the smoke-choked sky. Below, Helith's screams of rage were swallowed by explosions as the Tau strike force covered their retreat. They emerged above the clouds where a Tau vessel waited, elegant curves and clean lines that seemed utterly alien after the brutal Gothic architecture of the Imperium. As T'Challa was pulled into the ship's hangar, he caught a glimpse of the planet below, a scarred ball of gray and brown, its beauty long since sacrificed to industrial exploitation. The gravity field released him gently onto the deck. Tau warriors surrounded him, not threatening, but clearly ready. They were shorter than humans, their skin blue-gray, their faces marked by a distinctive nasal slit, but their eyes held intelligence and curiosity rather than fanaticism. One stepped forward, wearing robes instead of armor. "Greetings, advanced being. I am Poroi Sakesh of the Water Caste, diplomat and representative of the Tau Empire. We witnessed your arrival in this system and your subsequent capture by the Imperium. We could not allow such a mind to be wasted by imperial barbarism. You are safe now. Welcome to the greater good." T'Challa's diplomatic instincts immediately registered the subtle manipulation in her words. Safe, wasted, barbarism. She was framing the narrative, positioning the Tau as rescuers and the Imperium as oppressors. It wasn't necessarily wrong, but it was definitely calculated. "Thank you for the extraction," T'Challa said carefully, "though you initiated hostilities with the Imperium on my behalf without consulting me. That action may have consequences." Poroi Sakesh's expression, what T'Challa could read of it, showed approval. "Wise to consider ramifications. This is good. Come, we have much to discuss, and you must be hungry. The Imperium feeds its prisoners corpse starch and recycled protein. We can offer better." She led him through corridors that were clean, well-lit, and efficient in a way that reminded T'Challa painfully of Wakanda. No skulls, no prayers carved into every surface, no incense burning to ward off corruption. Just functional design and purposeful architecture. They entered a chamber that served as both meeting room and dining area. The table was set with food, real food, not the processed gray paste he'd seen Imperial soldiers consuming. Poroi gestured to a seat. "Please, eat, and tell me, what do you call yourself? What is your species? Your technology defies our sensors, and your combat capabilities suggest genetic enhancement far beyond standard human baseline." T'Challa sat, noting the other Tau in the room, a warrior in armor, a scientist with numerous scanning devices, and another water caste diplomat, all watching him with intense curiosity but no visible hostility.
"I am T'Challa, king of Wakanda. I am human, though I suspect not the humans you know, and my enhancements come from a plant native to my homeland, combined with technology developed over 10,000 years of unbroken civilization." The scientist, an Earth caste member named Fivre Komai, leaned forward eagerly. 10,000 years of continuous advancement? Impossible. Humans cannot maintain technological progression for more than a few centuries before war, religious fervor, or genetic instability causes collapse. We have studied them extensively. "The humans of the Imperium, perhaps," T'Challa said. "My people chose a different path. We isolated ourselves, protected our knowledge, and advanced slowly but steadily. No conquest, no empire, just one nation perfecting its craft." Poroi Sakesh's eyes gleamed. "Fascinating. You embody principles remarkably aligned with the greater good: collective advancement, protection of knowledge, sustainable progress. Perhaps your arrival is not accident, but destiny." There it was, the sales pitch. T'Challa had heard enough recruitment speeches to recognize one. "Tell me about this greater good," he said, taking a bite of the food. It was surprisingly good. Protein, vegetables, flavored with spices he didn't recognize, but which registered as safe to his suit's analysis. Poroi settled back, her posture becoming more formal. "The Tau Empire seeks to unite all sentient species under a single philosophy, the greater good. Each caste contributes according to its abilities. Fire caste warriors protect, earth caste scientists and engineers build, water caste diplomats negotiate, air caste pilots transport, and the ethereals guide us all toward collective prosperity." "And those who don't wish to join?" T'Challa asked quietly. A pause. Poroi's expression remained neutral, but T'Challa's enhanced senses caught the micro-expression, a brief tightening around her eyes. "We prefer peaceful integration, but if a species threatens the greater good or proves irredeemably hostile, we must protect the collective. Sometimes this requires firm measures." Conquest. In other words, liberation, poor Rui corrected gently. The Imperium enslaves its people with superstition and fear. We offer education, technology, and purpose. Most humans, who encounter us, choose to join willingly once they understand the alternative. T'Challa studied her. He believed what she was saying. He could see that clearly. But he'd met well-intentioned tyrants before. Killmonger had genuinely believed Wakanda should conquer the world to save it. Ultron had wanted to evolve humanity by destroying it. Good intentions paved very dark roads. "What do you want from me?" he asked bluntly. The Firecast warrior spoke for the first time, his voice harsh but honest. "Your combat capabilities are extraordinary. Your armor technology could revolutionize our doctrine. If you joined the Firecast, you could save countless lives in our expansion. And if I don't wish to join any cast?" Silence. Poor Rui recovered first. "Then you would be welcomed as an honored guest. We would provide you resources to repair your technology, shelter, and assistance in understanding this galaxy. All we ask in return is knowledge sharing and cultural exchange." "Nothing is free," T'Challa said. "I've negotiated enough treaties to know that." Poor Rui smiled, a human gesture, adopted for diplomatic purposes. "Wise indeed. Yes, we would hope that in exchange for our hospitality, you might share insights into your technology and perhaps serve as an ambassador to other human populations we encounter. Your ability to bridge our species and theirs would be invaluable." There it was. They wanted him as a symbol, a human who chose the greater good over the Imperium. Propaganda to sway other human worlds toward Tau integration. T'Challa's mind raced through scenarios. The Tau offered freedom, advancement, and cooperation, all things the Imperium denied, but their greater good sounded suspiciously like forced collectivism dressed in diplomatic language. And these ethereals, who guided everyone? What happened to those who disagreed with their guidance? "I need time to consider, and I need to understand this galaxy better. I've been here less than a day, and I've already been attacked by one empire and rescued by another. Both claim to want humanity's best interests. Both want to use me for their purposes." "A king's caution," poor Rui observed. "Understandable. But T'Challa, you must understand, in this galaxy, neutrality is not survival. The Imperium will hunt you as a heretic. Chaos will seek to corrupt you. The Tyranids will devour you. The Necrons will see you as raw material. Only through unity can we survive." Before T'Challa could respond, alarms wailed through the ship. The Firecast warrior was on his feet instantly, weapons charged. "Webway portal opening," he growled. "Eldar." The air in the center of the chamber tore open with a sound like crystal shattering. Reality bled at the edges of the rift, and through it stepped a figure that made T'Challa's breath catch. She was tall, slender, wearing armor that seemed grown rather than forged. Her face was alien, but hauntingly beautiful, with features too sharp and eyes too knowing. She radiated an aura of ancient power that made even the Tau warriors hesitate. "Enough," she said, her voice layered with harmonics that bypassed T'Challa's translator and spoke directly to understanding. "The Monkey child plays at empire building while the true powers watch, and you, outsider, you carry something that should not exist in this reality, a metal that predates the fall. Vibranium, you call it." T'Challa's hand moved to his claws instinctively. "How do you know that name?" The Eldar smiled, and it was not comforting. "Because I have walked the threads of fate for 3,000 years, and in all possible futures, your arrival signals great change. Some futures show you as the Imperium's weapon. Others show you spreading the Tao's naive philosophy. But there is one future, one chance where you become something more. She extended a hand. I am Farseer Yvrain of Craftworld Uthway, and if you come with me, I will show you truths about this galaxy that neither the Imperium's faith nor the Tao's optimism can explain. I will show you what you really are, and why chaos itself stirs at your presence. The Tau weapons were aimed at her, but she ignored them completely, her focus entirely on T'Challa. Choose quickly, King of Wakanda. The dark gods are already moving their pieces, and you are the prize they all seek.
The standoff held for 3 heartbeats. Tau pulse rifles charged and aimed at the Eldar Farseer. Poor wee Sakish's diplomatic mask had cracked, revealing genuine alarm beneath. The Firecast warrior positioned himself between T'Challa and Yvrain, ready to die defending the potential asset they just rescued. But T'Challa's enhanced senses told him a different story. The Farseer wasn't threatening, she was terrified. Not of the Tau, but of something else. Something she'd seen in her visions of possible futures. Her hand remained extended, but it trembled ever so slightly. You speak of chaos, T'Challa said, not moving from his seat. The Inquisitor mentioned it. The Psyker feared it. What is it? Yvrain's eyes flickered with approval. He asks questions. Good. The Monkey Imperium would have you accept dogma. The Tau would have you accept philosophy. But you seek understanding. She lowered her hand slowly. Chaos is the cancer at the heart of reality. The immaterium, what the Imperium calls the warp, is a reflection of sentient emotion. And for 60 million years, those emotions have curdled into gods of madness, disease, excess, and war. You're trying to frighten him, Porwee interjected, her diplomatic training reasserting itself. The Eldar see doom in every shadow. T'Challa, don't let their apocalyptic worldview. My people died for our apocalyptic worldview being too optimistic. Yvrain cut her off with a voice like winter. We birthed a chaos god through our own hedonism and watched it devour our empire in a single night. Trillions of souls consumed, our civilization shattered. So yes, Tau diplomat, I see doom because I have lived it. T'Challa rose slowly. His tactical mind was analyzing everything. The Tau's visible discomfort around the Eldar, Yvrain's obvious urgency, and the way both factions seemed to treat chaos as the ultimate threat despite their mutual antagonism. Why does chaos want me? He asked Yvrain. Yvrain stepped closer, ignoring the Tau weapons tracking her movement. You speak of chaos. You are an anomaly. Your vibranium should not exist. It resonates with frequencies that predate the war in heaven, the ancient conflict between the Old Ones and the Necrons. Your connection to this ancestral plane operates outside warp mechanics, which means the Chaos Gods cannot corrupt it directly. And your technology? She gestured to his suit. It is pure, uncorrupted by the scrap code corruption that plagues the Imperium's machine spirits, untainted by warp-touched innovation. This is speculation, the Earthcast scientist protested, based on Eldar mysticism, not empirical analysis. Then explain this, Yvrain said, and pulled a data crystal from her armor. She tossed it to the scientist, who caught it reflexively. That contains augur readings from 3 separate chaos warbands, all converging on this sector, all chanting the same name in their demonic liturgies, the Void King. That's what they're calling you, T'Challa, the king from beyond the warp, whose soul cannot be claimed. T'Challa felt a chill, despite his suit's temperature regulation. I've encountered gods before. I've fought alongside some, against others, but gods that feed on emotion.
are far more dangerous than gods of thunder or mischief, Yvraine finished, because they are us, reflected back and magnified to cosmic scale. Every act of violence feeds Khorne, every scheme empowers Tsinshel, every excess strengthens Slaanesh, every despair bloats Nurgle, and a being like you, uncorruptible, powerful, a symbol of hope in this dark millennium, represents either their greatest prize or their greatest threat. Poor we stepped forward, her diplomatic training warring with obvious fear. If what you say is true, then T'Challa is safest with the Tau Empire. Our collective mental discipline, our rejection of individual emotion in favor of the greater good provides natural resistance to chaos. Your ethereals provide that resistance, Yvraine corrected coldly. And you don't question why, do you? Don't wonder what price your precious caste system truly costs. The Firecast warrior's weapon snapped up. You go too far, witch. I speak truth, Yvraine replied, unfazed. Just as I speak truth when I say that hiding behind Tau lines will not save him. Chaos will come, and when it does, only understanding, true understanding of the warp's nature, will allow him to survive. T'Challa's mind raced. 3 factions now, each offering something different. The Imperium offered brutal survival through faith and subjugation. The Tau offered collective advancement at the cost of individual agency. And the Eldar. What do you offer? T'Challa asked Yvraine directly. Not philosophy, not threats. What would I gain by trusting you? Yvraine's expression softened into something almost resembling respect. Knowledge. The Black Library, repository of forbidden lore that predates your species' existence. Infinity circuits, where the souls of our dead persist beyond chaos's reach. And most importantly, she stepped closer, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Answers about what vibranium truly is and why it exists in your reality, but not ours. That caught T'Challa's attention. You know something about vibranium? I know that it should not exist. The fundamental particles that compose it require conditions that vanished from our universe billions of years ago. Yet you carry pounds of it on your body, shaped and refined by a human civilization that, by all records, should be technologically primitive. Either your Wakanda was given this material by something older than humanity, or you come from a reality with fundamentally different physical laws. Either way, chaos wants to understand it, to corrupt it, to use it. The ship shuddered. Alarms wailed. A Firecast officer burst into the chamber. Commander, warp signatures emerging from the Imperium. Multiple vessels, chaos-marked, converging on our position. Yvraine's face went grim. Faster than I calculated. They must have tracked him through the resonance of his suit's energy signature. She turned back to T'Challa. Choose now. Stay with the Tau and fight a battle they cannot win. Their technology is impressive, but chaos brings demons, and pulse rifles cannot kill thoughts made manifest. Or come with me into the webway, where the warp cannot easily reach.
Perui grabbed T'Challa's arm. Don't trust her. The Eldar have manipulated younger races for millennia. They would use you as a weapon against their enemies. Everyone wants to use me as a weapon, T'Challa said quietly, gently removing her hand. The Imperium, the Tau, now chaos itself. But I am not a weapon. I am a king, and a king must make decisions based on what protects his people, even when his people are galaxies away. He looked at Yvraine. If I come with you, I am not your servant. I am not your tool. I am a guest seeking knowledge, nothing more. Agreed, Yvraine said immediately. The Eldar do not take slaves. We learned that lesson when we enslaved ourselves to excess. Another shudder, more violent. The lights flickered.
Through the viewport, T'Challa could see reality itself tearing open. Ships emerged, if they could be called ships. They were floating nightmares of twisted metal and screaming faces, their hulls decorated with symbols that hurt to look at directly. And from them poured things that should not exist. Daemons. T'Challa's mind supplied the word even as his senses rejected what he was seeing. Creatures of crystallized hatred with burning blades, diseased monstrosities that dripped entropy, things of impossible geometry that moved through angles that didn't exist, and at their head something massive and terrible, wreathed in brass and blood. "Void King, Khorne claims you, your skull for his throne, your blood for his chalice." The Tau ship's weapons opened fire, pulse cannons, rail rifles, smart missile systems. The ammunition found their marks, but daemons didn't die like mortal creatures. They burst apart and reformed, laughing as they closed the distance. "T'Challa," Perui's voice was desperate, "please, help us, fight with us for the greater good." T'Challa looked at her, at the frightened Tau warriors preparing to die against an enemy they couldn't comprehend, and felt the familiar weight of responsibility. These people had rescued him. They'd offered him shelter, and now they were about to pay the price for that kindness. "Yvraine," T'Challa said, "can your webway portal evacuate these people?" The Farseer's eyes widened with surprise. "You would delay your own escape to save Monkey and Tau? The Chaos Horde draws closer every second." "I don't abandon people who helped me. King or not, that's who I am." For the first time, Yvraine smiled, genuinely smiled. "Then perhaps there is hope yet." She raised her hands, and the webway portal expanded, its crystalline edges extending. "Firecast, get your people through, quickly!" The Tau didn't hesitate. Discipline overrode confusion. They began evacuating, civilians first, then warriors in a controlled retreat. But the daemons were boarding now, tearing through the hull like paper. T'Challa moved to meet them. His claws extended. His suit blazed with stored kinetic energy from dozens of absorbed attacks. And for the first time since arriving in this nightmare galaxy, T'Challa embraced the full fury of the Black Panther. The first daemon, a bloodletter of Khorne, lunged with his hellblade raised. T'Challa was faster. Vibranium claws, enhanced by heart-shaped herb reflexes, carved through demonic essence. The creature screamed and dissipated, its anchor to reality severed. But there were dozens more, hundreds. They swarmed toward him, drawn by his defiance, his purity, his refusal to despair. T'Challa fought like a king defending his nation. No wasted movement, every strike precise, every dodge calculated. He wove between hellblades and demonic claws, his suit absorbing damage and redirecting it in devastating pulses. Behind him, Tau warriors laid down covering fire. A Firecast commander, the same one who'd extracted him from the Imperium, fought at his side, his battlesuit's fusion blasters vaporizing daemons even as they reformed. "Why?" the commander shouted over the chaos. "Why risk yourself for us?" "Because that's what leaders do," T'Challa responded, driving his claws through a plague-bearer's rotting skull. "They protect those in their care." "Then you are already practicing the greater good, whether you know it or not." The last of the civilians made it through the webway portal. Then the scientists, then the warriors, fighting a rearguard action. The Firecast commander looked at T'Challa one last time. "If you survive this, find us. The Tau Empire could use a king like you." Then he was through, and only T'Challa and Yvraine remained. The Daemon Lord crashed onto the deck, its brass armor cracking metal beneath impossible weight. "Void King, Khorne hungers!" T'Challa's suit registered the creature as physically impossible. 8 feet of muscle, rage, and unnatural physics. His tactical mind calculated angles, velocitabilities, weak points. There were none. This wasn't a fight he could win. "Yvrain," he called. "I know." The Farseer's hands wove patterns in the air, and the webway portal began to collapse. "Run!" They ran. Behind them, the Daemon Lord roared its fury, its blade carved through reality itself, reaching for them as they dove through the crystalline gateway. The webway swallowed them, and the portal sealed shut, just as brass fingers scraped against its surface. For a moment, T'Challa tumbled through impossible geometry, corridors that twisted through dimensions, paths that existed between existence. Then solid ground caught him, and he rolled to his feet in a place of crystalline beauty and ancient power. Yvrain stood beside him, breathing hard. "Welcome to the webway, T'Challa of Wakanda, the Eldar's last refuge. Here we are safe from chaos. Here we can prepare you for what comes next." T'Challa looked back at the sealed portal, thinking of the Tau he had helped save, of Inquisitor Heleth still hunting him, and the chaos forces that wanted him for unknowable purposes. He was further from home than ever, but he was alive, and he was learning. "Show me your black library. Show me everything. Because if I'm going to survive this galaxy, I need to understand it." Yvrain's smile was sharp as a blade. "Follow me, Void King. Your education begins now."
The Black Library was impossible. T'Challa had seen wonders, Wakandan technology that defied conventional physics, Asgardian architecture that married magic and science, even the quantum realm's fractal infinities. But the Black Library existed in a space that his mind struggled to categorize. It was vast, yet contained, ancient, yet timeless, silent, yet filled with whispers of 10,000 races' accumulated knowledge. Shelves stretched into infinity, curved through dimensions his enhanced senses couldn't quite parse. Books that weren't books floated in stasis fields. Some were data crystals, others were living thoughts preserved in psychic amber, still others were artifacts that predated written language entirely. The air itself felt heavy with meaning, as if every breath carried fragments of forgotten civilizations. "Welcome to the repository of forbidden knowledge," your brain said, her voice echoing strangely in the cavernous space. "Every secret chaos would corrupt, every truth the Imperium would burn, every innovation that Tau haven't yet imagined. It is all here, preserved by the Harlequins who guard this place between reality's folds." As if summoned by her words, figures emerged from the shadows. Harlequins, Eldar warriors wearing masks of comedy and tragedy, their movements liquid and hypnotic. They studied T'Challa with tilted heads, and one, masked in a grinning death's head, approached. "The outsider, the one who walks between fates. The laughing god finds you amusing, Void King. You bring chaos to chaos itself." It laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Do you know what you carry?" T'Challa's hand moved instinctively to his chest, where the heart-shaped herb's power coursed through his enhanced physiology. "Enlighten me." The Harlequin's mask shifted, actually shifted, as if it were alive. Vibranium, the last echo of the Old One's greatest experiment. They seeded it across realities as a test, a substance that could anchor souls outside the warp's influence. In most universes, it failed to manifest. In yours, the mask grinned wider. It thrived, and you, clever king, built an entire civilization around it without knowing you were constructing the greatest chaos ward in existence. T'Challa's mind raced. The ancestral plane, my connection to my fathers, that's what it is, isn't it? Not spiritual, scientific.
Vibranium creates a pocket dimension where souls can exist without warp exposure. Now he understands, your brain murmured approvingly. Your people accidentally achieved what the Eldar spend millennia crafting, spirit stones and infinity circuits to preserve souls from she who thirsts. Wakanda did it naturally, through a material that should not exist. The implications crashed over to Challa like a wave. Then chaos wants vibranium to destroy it, or corrupt it. If they could taint the material, they could collapse every soul sanctuary in your reality, your brain finished. Trillions of ancestors, all at once, flooding into the warp. A feast that would empower the dark gods beyond measure. Her mask became solemn, tragic. This is why you cannot go home, Void King. Not yet. Chaos knows where you came from now. The Demon Lord Scarbrand sensed the dimensional rift when you arrived. If you open another portal, you'll lead them straight to Wakanda. The words hit T'Challa like a physical blow. He couldn't go home, couldn't warn his people. Shuri, Okoye, Ramonda, they didn't even know he was gone, might never know what happened to him. And if he tried to reach them, he'd doom everything Wakanda had built. There must be a way, he said, his voice tight with controlled emotion. Your duty, your brain said softly, is to ensure your people have a home to return to. And that means stopping chaos from learning how to breach dimensional barriers at will. She gestured, and a holographic display materialized. Star charts, timeline projections, probability matrices. 3 chaos warbands are converging on this sector. Not raiders, full invasion forces. Korn wants your skull. Sinch wants your technology. Nurgle wants to corrupt vibranium into a plague-bearing metal. Slanesh, she paused, wants to experience the sensation of souls beyond its reach. T'Challa studied the projections with a tactician's eye. Where are they converging? On a Furge world called Metallicus Ninth, the Imperium's Mechanicus has been studying the residual energy signatures from your arrival. They're attempting to reverse engineer a dimensional breach. Your brain's expression was grim. If they succeed before understanding what they're doing, they'll tear open a gateway straight into your reality. Chaos will follow. Then we stop them, T'Challa said immediately. We go to this Furge world, destroy their research, and close whatever rift they're opening. The Harlequin laughed again. So simple, so direct. This is why the laughing god loves you, Void King. You see a problem and punch it. Its mask shifted to something thoughtful. But you cannot punch faith and obsession. The Mechanicus believes they're pursuing the Omnisia's will. They will die before abandoning their sacred quest. Then I convince them, T'Challa said. I've negotiated with warlords, dictators, and gods. I can negotiate with tech priests. Not these tech priests, your brain warned. The Magus leading this research is Belisarius Vectron, the same one who examined your suit. He believes you're the key to recovering lost standard template constructs. He thinks you're a walking Dark Age relic. He'll dissect you to prove his theories. T'Challa remembered Vectron's mechanical zealotry, the hunger in his augmented eyes. Then we'll need leverage, something that makes me more valuable alive and cooperative than dead and dismantled. We? Your brain asked, one eyebrow raised.
You brought me here for a reason beyond protection, T'Challa said, meeting her gaze steadily. You see futures. You calculate probabilities. You wouldn't invest this much effort in me unless you believed I could change something significant. So tell me, what did you see in your visions? The Farseer was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of prophecy. I saw 3 paths. In the first, you become the Imperium Saint, a symbol they use to justify genocide in the God Emperor's name. Billions die, but humanity endures another millennium.
In the second, you spread the Tao's philosophy, and the greater good expands until it suffocates individuality across 1,000 worlds. Peace, but at the cost of everything that makes sentience worth saving. And the third path? T'Challa asked. In the third path, you remain yourself, a king without a kingdom, yet leading nevertheless. You forge alliances across faction lines, Imperium, Tau, Eldar, even rogue elements of chaos who seek redemption. You become living proof that unity doesn't require uniformity, that cooperation doesn't require submission. Her eyes gleamed with dangerous hope. In that future, the galaxy changes. Not all at once, not easily, but it changes. And in that future, T'Challa said slowly, do I get home? Yvrane's expression softened with something approaching pity. The threads are unclear, but there is a chance, slim though it may be. A chance. It was more than he'd had moments ago. T'Challa straightened, feeling the familiar weight of leadership settling onto his shoulders. Then we pursue the third path. We go to Metallicus IX, stop the Mechanicus research, and prevent chaos from accessing my reality. After that, he looked at the impossible library surrounding them. After that, I learn everything I can about this galaxy, its factions, its history, its breaking points, and I find a way to make it better. The Harlequin clapped its hands in delight. Hubris! Beautiful, mortal hubris! The galaxy has ground down gods and empires for 60 million years, and this king thinks he can fix it. But perhaps that's exactly what's needed. Someone too naive to know they're attempting the impossible. I've built peace between nations on the brink of war. I've united heroes who had every reason to fight each other. I've turned enemies into allies through understanding and respect. This galaxy is larger, darker, more brutal, but the principles remain the same. Find common ground, build trust, show that cooperation serves everyone's interests better than conflict. The Imperium will call you heretic, Yvrane warned. Let them. The Tau will try to absorb you into their collective. I will remain sovereign. The chaos will tempt you with power beyond imagining. I have seen what power without wisdom creates. I will not fall. Yvrane studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Very well, Void King. We will attempt your third path. But know this, the moment I see the threads turning toward darker futures, I will kill you myself rather than let you become a weapon for chaos. I would expect nothing less, T'Challa replied. The Harlequin produced a data crystal from nowhere, tossing it to T'Challa. A gift from the Laughing God. Schematics for Metallicus IX, patrol routes, weaknesses in their defenses. Also, it paused dramatically, a message to transmit when you arrive. It will convince certain elements within the Mechanicus that you're worth hearing out. What elements? T'Challa asked suspiciously. The ones who remember that the Omnissiah's first commandment was seek knowledge, not preserve stagnation. The Harlequin's mask grinned. There are tech priests who dream of innovation, who whisper heretical theories about reclaiming mankind's lost golden age. They've been waiting for a sign. You, Void King, are about to become that sign. T'Challa absorbed this. A splinter faction within the Mechanicus, potential allies who valued progress over dogma. It was a thread he could pull. When do we leave? T'Challa asked. Now, Yvrane said, opening another webway portal. The Chaos fleets draw closer with each passing hour. We must reach Metallicus IX before they do, or this war will be fought on ground that makes victory impossible. T'Challa moved towards the portal, then paused. He looked back at the infinite library, at the accumulated knowledge of countless civilizations. One question before we go. You said vibranium was seeded across realities as a test. A test of what?
The Harlequin's mask became utterly alien, incomprehensible. Its voice dropped to a whisper, a test of whether sentient life could evolve beyond the warp's corruption, whether souls could exist independently of the Imperium's influence. Your people passed that test, Void King. You are proof that evolution has alternative paths, that the Chaos God's dominion is not inevitable. Then this isn't just about protecting Wakanda, T'Challa realized. This is about proving that all of reality doesn't have to follow the same damned trajectory. Now he truly understands, Yvraine murmured. T'Challa stepped through the webway portal, his mind already racing through tactical scenarios, diplomatic approaches, and contingency plans. Behind him, the Black Library's infinite shelves whispered secrets to the void. Ahead lay Metallicus IX, a forge world where faith and science had merged into fanatical obsession, where tech priests dissected reality in search of divine truth, where chaos fleets converged with apocalyptic intent, and where T'Challa, King of Wakanda, would make his first real move in this dark millennium's great game. The webway carried him forward, towards destiny and disaster in equal measure, towards the moment when he would have to prove that wisdom could survive in a galaxy built on endless war, or die trying.
Metallicus IX burned beneath 3 suns, its surface a nightmare of industrial excess and religious fervor. Forges the size of mountains belched plasma into a sky choked with sacred smog. Tech priests chanted binary prayers as they tended machines older than civilizations. And deep within its adamantium heart, Magos Belisarius Veteran prepared to tear open reality itself in pursuit of knowledge he believed divine. T'Challa emerged from the webway into this hell with Yvraine at his side, his suit's sensors immediately cataloging threats. Skitari patrols, defense turrets, atmospheric toxins that would kill an unaugmented human in seconds. But he also noted something else. Scattered signals, encrypted communications using patterns the Harlequin's data crystal identified as belonging to the progressive faction within the Mechanicus, the ones who still remembered that innovation was sacred. They were here, waiting, hoping. The confrontation with Vectrin came swiftly. The Magos had been expecting him, whether through calculation, prophecy, or simple paranoid preparation, didn't matter. They met in a cathedral factory where titans were born, surrounded by god machines in various stages of construction. Macadendrites writhed with agitation, his augmented eyes glowing with zealous hunger. The outsider returns, come to stop sacred research, come to deny the Omniscience faithful their greatest discovery. Raskar, T'Challa replied calmly, to prevent you from dooming 2 realities. Your dimensional breach will tear open pathways chaos can exploit. You'll destroy what you're trying to save. Heresy! The Omniscience guides our... The Omniscience would not guide you toward extinction, T'Challa interrupted and played the Harlequin's message. What followed was proof that even in the 41st millennium's darkness, curiosity could survive. The message contained mathematical proofs, technological theories, and invitations to wonder that spoke directly to the part of Magos Vectrin that was still a scientist underneath the religious programming. More importantly, it contained voices. Dozens of tech priests stepping forward, removing their masks of dogma, admitting they'd been waiting for someone like T'Challa. Someone who proved that humanity could evolve beyond the Imperium's stagnation. The debate that followed was unlike anything this Forge world had witnessed. T'Challa spoke not as a king demanding obedience, but as a fellow seeker of knowledge sharing what Wakanda had learned, that progress required wisdom, that innovation served people rather than enslaving them, that faith and science didn't have to be enemies if both served truth. Some tech priests rejected him outright, but others, enough others, listened. When the Chaos fleets arrived, they found not a divided Forge world ripe for conquest, but a unified defense. Imperium soldiers fought alongside Tau fire warriors T'Challa had evacuated earlier, their combined tactics coordinated by Eldar rangers. Tech priests wielded weapons both ancient and newly innovated, blessed by prayers to the Omnissiah and enhanced by Wakandan principles Vectron's progressive faction had begun implementing. It wasn't perfect unity. Tensions ran high, cultural differences created friction at every level. Imperial soldiers muttered about Xenos corruption. Tau debated whether the greater good could accommodate monarchical leadership. Eldar questioned whether monarchy were worth saving at all. But they fought together, and that made all the difference. The demon lord Skarbrand crashed into the Forge world's surface with apocalyptic fury, leading legions of bloodletters and plague bearers. Reality warped around its presence, metal rusting instantly, stone cracking from impossible heat. It roared T'Challa's name with the voices of 1,000 murdered souls. T'Challa met it in single combat while his unlikely alliance held the line around him. The battle was brutal. Vibranium claws against hell-forged brass, enhanced reflexes against unnatural speed, a king's determination against a demon's eternal rage. T'Challa fought with everything Wakanda had taught him, not just combat techniques, but the wisdom of knowing when to strike and when to evade, when to absorb damage and when to redirect it. He couldn't kill Skarbrand, demons didn't truly die, but he could banish it. With Yvrane's guidance, with tech priests' calculations, with Tau technological support and Imperial faith somehow working in concert, they created a moment of perfect synchronization. Reality stabilized just long enough for T'Challa to drive his claws through the demon's essence, not killing, but severing its connection to the material realm. Skarbrand screamed as it was torn back into the warp, its final words a promise of eternal vengeance. The Chaos Fleet, seeing their champion banished, retreated into the Imperium. The immediate threat was over. But the real victory was what remained, an Imperium Forge world that had cooperated with Xenos and survived. Tech priests who'd chosen innovation over dogma. Soldiers from 3 factions who'd seen that unity didn't require uniformity. In the aftermath, T'Challa stood on Metallicus Ninth's ramparts and looked up at stars he didn't recognize. Somewhere beyond them lay Wakanda, unreachable but not forgotten. His duty as king remained, but it had expanded, not to rule this galaxy, but to prove that even in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, another way was possible. Inquisitor Helithris would continue hunting him. The Tau would continue offering their greater good. The Eldar would watch to ensure he didn't deviate from the third path, and Chaos would never stop seeking the secrets of vibranium and the dimensions beyond their reach. But T'Challa had allies now, fragile, fractious, barely holding together, but allies nonetheless. The progressive Mechanicus faction, who called themselves the Seekers of the True Omnissiah, the Tau fire warriors who'd learned that the greater good could include monarchs, the Eldar who'd seen potential in Mon-Ki evolution,
even a handful of Imperial soldiers who began questioning whether the God Emperor truly wanted endless stagnation. It was a beginning, nothing more. The galaxy remained brutal, unforgiving, hostile to hope. But T'Challa had learned something crucial. This galaxy wasn't irredeemable. It was just waiting for someone to prove that redemption was possible. He was a king without a kingdom, a warrior without a home, a symbol of something this dark millennium desperately needed, but barely remembered how to recognize. He was proof that wisdom could survive brutality, that unity could transcend uniformity, that even in a galaxy where there is only war, someone could still fight for peace. The path home remained uncertain. The threats multiplied by the day. Chaos would never forgive his defiance. The Imperium would never accept his heresy. The future stretched ahead, dark and uncertain, and filled with dangers he'd only begun to comprehend. But T'Challa had faced impossible odds before. He'd built Wakanda into a nation that could stand against the world. Now he would show this galaxy what one king could accomplish when he refused to surrender his principles. Not through conquest, not through conversion, but through example. In the 41st millennium, there is only war. But perhaps, just perhaps, T'Challa, the Black Panther, the Void King, could plant the seeds of something better in war's ashes. And if those seeds took root, if other voices joined his call for wisdom over zealotry, for cooperation over domination, for hope over despair, then even in this darkness, light might find a way to endure. Wakanda forever, he thought, touching his chest where the heart-shaped herb's power still burned. Even galaxies away, even here, in the dark millennium.